Okay, let's let's begin our discussion of a very large topic. But this time of year, as we just started Tammuz, it's always good to talk about the Beis Hamikdash, and it's always good to talk about Yerushalayim and related issues. But let's talk a little bit about a large topic, but a little bit of a large topic, more food for thought to give some basic sources, and then feel free to analyze more on your own. Again, this is a very politically charged topic, Bisman Hazeh. We're not going to get into that, as you might have guessed. We're just going to give some background to what some of the sources, and to have certain things clear, and then feel free to focus more on your own. But again, B'schus are focusing on Har HaBayis and Beis Hamikdash and related issues. We should be zochet to actually fulfill and actually have it all, as we will see. The first parak of Maseches Kelim is about the 10 levels of Kedusha in Eretz Yisrael. 10 levels, right? The first parak is the only parak in Maseches Kelim out of all 30 prakim that don't have to do with Kelim, right? There's the parak starts off with the levels of Tumah, right? Avos Satumos and Aviyavos Satuma, and what's an Av, what's a Rishon, v'chulu. And then once we have the different levels, we also have the levels of Kedusha. So we have in the first source, Eser Kedusha saying, Eretz Yisrael, Kudesh is Mikol HaRatzos. Eretz Yisrael is more sanctified than all other lands. And again, Kedusha is always reflected by halachos. And there are halachos in Eretz Yisrael, and that's why, that's how you know the Kedusha is reflected. What is the Kedusha? The certain karbanos can only come from Eretz Yisrael. The Omer, the Bikurim, Shtei Alecha. Fine. Ayaros, then the next level up are walled cities. Ayaros and Mukafas Choma, Mimos Yeshua Ben Nun. Because out of a walled city, you have to send people who are Tameh. A Mitzorah has to go out of a walled city. So you see, even if it's not Yerushalayim, a walled city has some level of Kedusha. Why is that? Chassam Sofer has a tshuva about it, but that's the second level of Kedusha. Then let's get into Yerushalayim itself. Inside the walls of Yerushalayim, Lifnim and Achoma, the Kudash Mehem, Sha'ochlim Sham Kachim Kalam and Meiser Sheni. Right, the walls inside Yerushalayim is the next level of Kedusha. How's that reflected? You can eat Kachim Kalam, Karban Pesach. Karban Pesach, all of Am Yisrael eat the Karban Pesach. It's a Karban, you have to eat it in Yerushalayim. That's how we know, like maybe in the future, Yerushalayim, the borders are going to expand because you have millions of Jews have to all be in Yerushalayim. That's a lot of people to fit in there. So they're all going to be in there. It's going to expand. There's a pasuk that says maybe it's even going to go to Damascus. Right? Huge. Right? It's going to be. Okay. Har HaBayis. Mekudash B'imanu. Now we're going from out to in. We go from Eretz Yisrael to Yerushalayim. Next, Har HaBayis. Har HaBayis is the next level up. She'ein, who cannot be on Har HaBayis? People who are called people who have Tumah Hayotze Migufam. There are a lot of Tumas. Most Tumas are external. I touch a dead sheretz, or I touch a dead body. That makes me tummy from the outside. Certain Tumas are from within. Tumah that goes out of my body. So if I have some type of flow that makes me tameh, zav, zava, those are both illnesses. Nida, that's something natural. Yoledes, woman has a baby. All of those make her or him tameh ayos migufo. Those people cannot go on to Har HaBayis. They are tameh. So some zavos, they can't go in. They're nechasim l'sham. Next, hachayil. So I don't have a board here, but if you imagine the picture of the Beis Hamikdash in your head, there's a board over there, but we're not going to use it right now because it's not behind the capsule thing, right? So you go on all of Har HaBayis, and then Har HaBayis has large areas where Bnei Yisrael could stand on the east side, and then now going from east to west. Kodesh Kodashim is in the west. That's going to be the most holy, the most kadosh. Now going from east to west, around the Azara area is a little fence called the Soreg. And between the fence and the Azara, that's called the Chel. So, Hachel Mekudesh Mimanu, the Chel is more sanctified than the Har HaBayis. Shenodegachavim, the Tamei Mesach Lasim L'Sham. Tamei Mes and non-Jews are not allowed to go beyond there. That's, by the way, why the Mishnah says that the Yevanim made 13 breaks, pirtzas in the Chel, in the Soreg. Why dafka did they break that part of the Beis Hamikdash? Out of all of them. Because that's the border where Jews and non-Jews aren't allowed to go beyond. So that's what they were upset, right? The Yevanim said, no, there's nothing special about Jews. We're all in this together. So that's why dafka, they broke that fence, because they wanted to break the separations between the Jews and the non-Jews. But the chel is the border where over the kachavim and tamei meis could go up to. And then we get further. Ezras Nashim is more mekudash. Atful Yom can't go there. Ezras Yisrael is more mekudash, right? Where the karbanos are sacrificed. Mechusar Kippurim can't go there. Ezras Kohanim. That's if you go into the Azara, the first 11 amos on the east side are called Ezras Yisrael. Yisraelim can still go in there, right? If somebody has a karban, they can still go in there. The next 11 amos, there's 22 amos until you get to the Mizbeach, going from east to west. First 11 amos, Yisraelim are allowed to be in. The next 11 amos, Kohanim can be in. That's called Ezras Kohanim. Yisraelim cannot be there, right? And then you get the Mizbeach, and then you have a little more space. Then you get to the hallway going into the Heichal, the Chulu, as the Mishnah continues. Bein Ulam v'la Mizbeach, between the hallway and the Mizbeach is more Mekudash, and then you have the Heichal and the Kodesh Kadashim v'chulu. You have all of these levels. Fine. So, if we think about what we're going to talk about today, and that is Har HaBayis. Har HaBayis is a place where, as long as you are not Tamei Meis, could go onto Har HaBayis. Once you get further in, as long as you're not Tuma Yosef Migufo, Izav, Yolevis, those types of Tumos, Nida, they cannot go onto Har HaBayis. So any discussion today about going onto Har HaBayis has to be somebody who does not have one of those 4 Tumas. That's why you go to the mikveh beforehand. The chulu, right? Women, it's much more of an issue than men because Zava and Nida get trickier. But a man, it's a little more pashut to be able to, if a man is Balkari is a question, but either way, Balkari is if a man that knows that he doesn't have stuff coming out, so then there's a way for him to be toval from that. Tamei Meis, we can't get out of Bizman Hazeh. That we can't get out of Bizman Hazeh. We don't have the ashes of the Paraduma. So that's why it would be, if we knew exactly the borders, going past the Soreg into the Chel, that's Asr for us. That's Asr for us, as we will see. Well, let's say it's Asr, Bizman, there's a Mikdash. Let's just say that. But these are the different levels. These are the different levels of Kedusha. So we know when Shlomo HaMelech built the Beis HaMikdash, these Kedushas were intact, and this is the levels that are described by the Mishnah in Maseches Kelim. The Rambam says in Hilchos Beis HaBechira, in source number 3, Kivan she'nivneh HaMikdash b'Yerushalayim, ne'asru kol ha'makomos kulan, livnos ben bayis Lashem. Once the Beis HaMikdash was built, one can no longer build any house or altar, Mizbeach, anywhere in the world. Ulakru b'em karban. Ve'ein sham bayis l'dorei doras el b'Yerushalayim bilvad. Only in Yerushalayim ubahar haMoriah sheba, and on Har Moriah, in that spot. Binyan shabana Shlomo kfar mefurish b'malachim, binyan asid li'ibano, zabishu kasa b'yecheskel, in a mefurish, umevuar. It's fascinating, if you think about it, this is not our topic now. Yechezkel lived before they built Bayis Sheni. Yechezkel describes Bayis Shlishi. But it's very hard to understand exactly what Yechezkel's talking about. So they couldn't follow Yechezkel's instructions to build Bayis Sheni because a lot of the psukim, they don't know what he means. So Bayis, the Mishkan is in the Torah. Bayis Rishon is described in Sefer Malachim. Bayis Sheni is described in Mishnayos Midos. Bayis Shlishi is described in Yechezkel. But keep in mind, Yechezkel lived during Galus Bavel. He was in Bavel, and but they didn't fully understand. That's what the Rambam says here. That it wasn't Mefurish in the and Mevuar, so that's why they couldn't go based on his words. So the Rambam says in Hilchos Beis HaBechira, which we know, that when there is a Beis HaMikdash, there is Kedusha, there's an Isra Bamos, and all of these Kedushas are intact. Our first question is, so what about nowadays? We don't have a Beis HaMikdash. So does the Kedusha stay? Is there still Kedusha to that spot? When there's a Beis HaMikdash, obviously. But when there's no Beis HaMikdash, so then what? How are we supposed to look at that spot of the world? Says the Rambam. The Rambam is clear. And most Rishonim are clear. It still has full Kedusha. It still has full Kedusha as if there was a Beis HaMikdash standing there. Says the Rambam, Hilchos Beis HaBechira in Perek Vav. It's a much discussed Rambam. Says the Rambam in source number 4. Ubamen is kasha b'kedusha rishona shekisha shlomo shukides ha'azara. With what sanctity is it sanctified? Shlomo sanctified the Azara. Yerushalayim l'shaitan v'kitsham la'asilavo. And sanctify them eternally. Skip the Ravid for now. Skip the Ravid, we'll come back. Says the Rambam, next halach, halacha tezvav, lefichach, makriv en akarbanos kula navo b'shein shabayis banui. Therefore, bisman hazeh, one could give karbanos. technically, there are a number of problems. We need to know the exact spot of the Mizbeach. That's the only spot that you're allowed to give karbanos on. We don't have a Navi to tell us that spot. Maybe we need Big Day Kahuna. There's a separate shiur which we're not having here about Hakravas Karbanos Bizman Hazeh. But mitzad, the Kedusha of the spot, that's okay. The spot has Kedusha so that one could give Karbanos in that spot. There are 5 or 6 other issues that have to be worked out. But that is the Rambam. You're allowed to give Karbanos without a Beis HaMikdash. V'yochlan kachim b'chol hazara. Avli shi charev, and one would be able to eat kachim, even though it's destroyed. Ve'enu mukepes machitza, it doesn't have walls. V'yochlan kachim kalim b'chol Yerushalayim. Because Kedusha Rishona Kishel L'Shaita V'Kishel L'Asalavo. Says the Rambam now explaining, and this is a much discussed Rambam. There have been volumes written about this next halacha of the Rambam. Says the Rambam, V'lama ani omer, why do I say that Bizman Hazeh, Yerushalayim, Beis HaMikdash, that Kedusha is full, even though the Kedusha of the rest of Eretz Yisrael could be D'Rabbanan Bizman Hazeh. Right? In 2 years from now, B'ez Hashem will be Shemitah, the big discussion of Heter Mechira. Step 1 in selling property of Eretz Yisrael, step 1 has to be the Kedusha Saris is D'Rabbanan Bizman Hazeh. You don't get the first base. You don't get to the step 1 if you don't assume that. So ask the Rambam, how could the rest of the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael be D'Rabbanan while the Kedusha of Har HaBayis and the Beis HaMikdash is full? D'Oraisa. What's the difference? Says the Rambam. V'lama ani omer. B'mikdash Yerushalayim, Kedusha Rishona, Kitchel Asalavo, U'Kedusha Shara Eretz Yisrael, Lo Kitchel Asalavo, Lefi Shekdusas HaMikdash Yerushalayim B'nei Hashchina. Because the Kedusha of Yerushalayim and the Kedusha of Mikdash are based on 2 different things. The Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash comes from the fact that Hashem rested His presence there. The Shechina Eina B'Teila. And once Hashem rested His presence there, it's eternal. It's eternal. It's not physical. The pasuk says, I will make desolate your mikdash. Even though they are desolate, they are still in their sanctity. The rest of Eretz Yisrael, that's based on kibush chazaka, which we're not going to get into now. Big topic. But we're going to focus on the first half of the Rambam. The Kedusha of Yerushalayim Bizman Hazeh and the Beis HaMikdash is totally on Hashem's presence there. And that never left. There are many chazals that the Kedusha, Hashem Shechina is still there. The Shechina never left the Kotel HaMa'aravi, which I always find a very inspiring medrash. The medrash says that the Kotel, the Kedusha on the Kotel, is never going to leave. The midrashim were written by the Tanaim 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, could you have guaranteed that the Kotel will stand forever? Who could do that? The whole Yerushalayim was destroyed. The whole Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. There's one western wall left. Eventually, it's going to be broken down also. The Medrash, the Tanoim said, it's going to be forever. It's never going to be broken down. The Kachava, 2,000 years later, we still have the wall. Fascinating. It's amazing. Amazing. Am Yisrael Chai, Kadosh Baruch Hu is unbelievable, that promise. So the Rambam holds clearly that the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash and Har HaBayis is full Bizman Hazeh. And that's alluded to already and based on the Mishnah. The Mishnah in the first parak in Megillah. Kedushas Yerushalayim ein acharei heter. You can't bring a carbon anywhere in the world anymore today. So that is clear. So anybody who goes on, and this is what, let me just add, this is what Rov Rishonim assume. A super majority of Rishonim assume that, and therefore, anyone who goes on to Har HaBayis today is not doing it because they believe that there is no Kedusha. Rov Rishonim, the Ruba of the Rishonim, say there's full Kedusha Bizman Hazeh. They're going on it, Har HaBayis, because they're assuming that the places that they're going to is not a place where they're usher to go. Meaning, we saw before, as long as one goes to a mikveh and fully observes, right? That's an important caveat. Knows halachis of tevilah and chatzitza and prepares for it properly, and knows that they're not a zav or a yoledes or any of the others involved. So then one can go on to Har HaBayis. One cannot go past the soreg, which doesn't exist anymore in the chel. But that's the assumption that the areas of Har HaBayis that people would walk on. Those who walk on it are outside the areas, obviously are included in the areas that are mutter for somebody to go on, not a tamei meis, because we're all tamei meis, and you can't go anywhere where tamei meis is not allowed to go. We don't have the ashes of the paraduma to get rid of that problem that we would have. But zav yoledes, those nida, those could get, we could be matire from those, and that's what the assumption is. Fine. There is a Ravid Shita, though. And we're going to spend a little time on the Ravid, because that's where a lot of the action is. There is a mysterious Ravid, we'll call it. A mysterious Ravid. On that Rambam, the Ravid says, Amar Avram, back to source 4, Svaras Atzmo Hizu. This is the Rambam's own Svara. Velo Yadati Me'ayin Lo. I don't know where he got it from. Ubekama Mekamos B'Mishnah. We find many sources in Chazal, says the Ravid, that something changed after the base of English was destroyed. Something changed. Imein Mikdash Yirakev. There's a Mishnah in Meiser Sheni that used to bring up the Meiser Sheni fruit to the base of Mikdash, and once there's no base of Mikdash, you let it rot. The Chulu. Skip a line. Shiny Omer Shafila Rabbi Yossi to Amar Kedusha Shniya Kishel Asalavo Lo Amar Elo Shar Eretz Yisrael. Kind of the opposite direction of the Rambam. Aval Yerushalayim u'lemikdash lo amar lefi shahaya yodea Ezra. Ezra knew. Ezra, who built the second base of English, knew. Shah mikdash b'Yerushalayim asidin lehish tanos ulehiz kadesh kiddush acher olami b'kvod Hashem la'olam. Ezra and those who built the second base of English knew it was not going to be eternal. Knew it could have been eternal if we would have been zocheh, but most Jews did not come back, which is also something amazing. Ezra and the Nevi'im was saying, we're building a Beis HaMikdash. Come join us. Come join the building. And most Jews did not get out of Bavel. Now, we think nowadays, if a Navi would come and start building the Beis HaMikdash, everybody would come, of course. It's like a no-brainer. It happened once before 2,000 years ago. That it was only 70 years after the first Beis HaMikdash. We'll send money. Build a Beis HaMikdash, we'll come for Yantif. We'll get one of those, Yerushalayim apartments, for the Bnei Chutz La'aretz. That's good for us. We'll come for Yantif. So, says the Ravid. They knew. Okay. But then the Ravid adds, Kach nigla li misod Hashem li re'av, which is a fascinating line, not for now. There was some type of siyata d'shmaya that the Ravid had this line with. But then, the next 7 words. Lefichach, hanichnas ata sham, ein bo karis. It's the Ravid's lashon. Therefore, anyone who goes on a tahara bias nowadays doesn't get karis. What does that mean? What does the Ravid say? So the Ravid might be saying that Bisman Hazeh, arguing on the Rambam fundamentally, there's no kedusha. There's no kedusha on Har Bayis Bisman Hazeh. It was destroyed. There's no kedusha. And maybe there's a smach to the Ravid in the Meiri. The Meiri and the Ravid were from the same place. Remember, the Ravid was from Provence, southern France. The Meiri was a couple hundred years after the Ravid. Meiri was a late Rishon. But he quotes, the Meiri I don't think was ever in Eretz Yisrael, but he quotes, I've heard that people walk onto Har Bayis Bisman Hazeh. That's what he quotes. You have it in the Meiri in Shavuos Daf Tezayin, source number 7. So he quotes this Ravid. He quotes the Ravid. Ein Bokares, and then look at the last few words. V'haminag pashut likanis sham lefi masha shamanu. And I've heard that people walk onto Har Bayis Bisman Hazeh. That means mamish Har Bayis, like where the Kodesh Kodashim was. That's this shmua that the Meiri heard, and maybe it's based on the Ravid. And the Radvaz, also one of the great late Rishonim, early Achronim in Egypt. He came to Eretz Yisrael towards the end of his life. Also uses this Ravid as a sniff of not having Kedusha Bisman Hazeh. And therefore nowadays, maybe that's a sniff lahakel. No matter what, the Ravid says it's mutter anyway. But a number of points. Number 1, even if the Ravid meant it, he is a very big Das Yachid. Rav Ovadia Yosef in source number 9, you don't need more than him if he's going to collect sources. So Rav Ovadia in source number 9 says Because who holds like the Rambam? Here he goes. Tosfos Sefer Truma, Sefer Yereim, the Smag, Mara Miruenberg, the Rosh, the Sefer Achinuch, the Rashbat, the Ramban, the Rashba, the Ritva. Those are the Rishonim. Anybody not on that list? V'chein Pasku Gdolei Achronim. Magen Avram, Divrei Emes, Avnei Nezer, Binyan Sian, Mishnah Brura, Ridvaz, Rav Kook. So that's a pretty big list. So even if we want to say that the Ravid, it's Das Yachid is Mutter, we don't hold like the Ravid. Number two. The Minchas Yitzchak Dayan Y says, you're going to bring me a raya from the Meiri also? He heard? What does that mean? He didn't see? He didn't have any Masara? He heard? We've heard a lot of things about what various Jews do. That doesn't determine halacha, says the Minchas Yitzchak. Right? That doesn't determine halacha. Good. Number two, if the Ravid really felt that it was mutter, he should have argued in a number of other places in the Rambam as well. The Rambam quotes as the halacha of Mora Mikdash. Source 12. Since even though we have a destroyed base of Mikdash nowadays, a person is obligated to be in awe of the base of Mikdash, just like when it was built. You can't sit, you can't have kalas rosh. Where's the Ravid? Nowadays doesn't apply. Where does he say that? If the Ravid feels there's no kedusha bisman hazeh, he should have argued there. Should have argued on halach of shchutei chutz. You can't give karbanis anywhere nowadays. What do you mean? There's no more kedusha. So most assume that even l'Ravid, he doesn't say there's no kedusha. Let's go back to the language of the Ravid. What did the Ravid say? Lefichach, whoever goes there today, ein bo kares. He doesn't say mutter. Ein bo kares. There's something lacking nowadays, says the Ravid. That's true. There's some aspect of the kedusha that's lacking, which we'll talk about more in a minute. But most assume that according to the Ravid, even according to the Ravid, there is kedusha bisman hazeh. Even according to the Ravid, the Binyan Sion, that's the Aruch Laner. Rabbi Yaakov Ellinger, source 14, he quotes this, that all poskim, l'chein yerli b'bir divrei Ravid. Gam Ravid mesupak, im yishlis mocha ra Yosef. All right, show Rabbi Yochanan. L'chein lo hita l'chnos l'sham. He didn't matir. The midas havik daraisa lo nafka. Rakam ashe yotze, mishitas harambam. The Mishanichlas Ata L'Shem Chayev Kares. The Rambam says you're Chayev Kares, and you're a Russia and you're Pasal Eidus. The Ravid says I'm not so sure if I'm going to go that far. Maybe you're not going to be Pasal Eidus. I'm not sure, but it's not mutter. It's not mutter. Or a fascinating tshuva. The Tzitz Eliezer of Waldenberg. Tzitz Eliezer says maybe even the Ravid would agree Bizman Hazeh that there's a problem. Even if he said it was mutter then, why? Because now there's Jewish authority over Eretz Yisrael. And there are certain halachas. We discussed, did we have a shiur earlier about tearing? When you see that, I don't know, maybe next week. That's sure we'll do that. Tearing Kriya at the Kotel and the Komas HaKadoshim. But it could be that the halachos that are affected by the fact 1948, 1967, that affected halacha. The application didn't change the halacha, but it changed the application of the halacha. Says it's Tzitz Eliezer. Mikol makom. Zeu dafka kol ot shenimsu hamakom aris biyadakum. But bizman hazeh kishachazar hamikdash the makom hamikdash dios tachas reshus Yisrael kibizmanenu azai kishem sheish lomar shachazar kedushas haaretz kach va'od bikol shekain chazar gam kedushas makom hamikdash. Even if we don't have the base hamikdash, we have the control, and therefore maybe even the Ravid wouldn't say it bizman hazeh. So again, the whole discussion of Harabayis Bizman Hazeh, is not about, maybe there's no Kedusha. There is this line in the Ravid, but most assume, maybe the Ravid didn't even mean it. Doesn't mean mutter. Something's missing. And number two, we don't paskin like the Ravid. No matter what the Ravid meant or the Meiri, we don't hold like this Ravid. And therefore, any discussion of it is assuming there is Kedusha Bizman Hazeh, but the places that they're going to is not in an area which is in doubt. It's not an area where there's a question about Tumas Meis. Yeah. So why does it make a difference? That's part of a bigger discussion. You look in the Magen Avram in Hilchos Kriya, Taf Kuf Nun, Taf Kuf Mem something, whatever. Look at Kriya. He says there that there are differences in halacha when Jews have authority over the area. The difference in halacha in terms of Kriya, so it might have differences here. Just want to mention one other point of Lumdus, and with this we'll finish. One other point of Lumdus, that is, so what's the svar for the Ravid? Let's take the Ravid Kipshuto. Ein bo kare. So obviously something's different. So what's different nowadays? What's different? He agrees there's Kedusha. So there is a Gemara. Gemara in Zvachim Daf Chav Dalet, 17. The Gemara has a fascinating question. Boy Rabbi Ami, or the way the Gemara says it. Nekra ha'even mimkoma, evan v'aven mimkoma. We know that a Kohen has to be barefoot. B'ez Hashem, soon, Mehiri Bana Beis HaMikdash, Mashiach will be built today, Mashiach will come today, Beis HaMikdash will be built very soon, Naphtali is going to be giving karbanos for the next day or two. Any other Kohanim here? No? Got one. Okay. So Naphtali is going to be giving karbanos. He will not be able to wear shoes. Barefoot. 4 begadim of the big Kohen Hedyot, he's got to be barefoot. Because there can't be any chatzitza between the floor and his feet. What happens if one of the tiles of the Beis HaMikdash was removed and he stands on the ground where the tile was? Is that okay? He can't be standing on a rock, an extra rock on top. But what if he takes away some of the floor and he stands on the floor? Is that okay? That's the question of the Gemara. Nekra ha'even v'alma bimkom ha'mahu. So ask the Gemara, what's the issue at root? Mai kami boili. Ki Kaddish David. When David HaMelech sanctified the Mikdash, Ritzpel Yona Kaddish, did he only sanctify the upper level floor? Odilma ad la'aris tetoma Kaddish. Or did he sanctify all the way down into the earth? What did David HaMelech sanctify? Just the top level of the ground? Or even underneath? That's the question. So if you're missing the rock, then you're missing the top level, but, underneath. Okay, and the Gemara continues. Ask Tosfos. 1 second. David didn't build the Beis HaMikdash. That's what we're talking about. What did David HaMelech sanctify? David didn't build the Beis HaMikdash. Shlomo built the Beis HaMikdash. What's the Gemara talking about? Says Tosfos there. V'yafal gav de Shlomo bana habayis David kidsha. Shlomo built the Beis HaMikdash, but David sanctified the Beis HaMikdash. He was Makadesh the Ritzpah. Parenthetical. Back pocket this vart for your engagement party. Right? This is a great vart to say. Every time there's Kedusha, it's not just on what you see. David HaMelech was Makadesh the Ritzpah. Mizmar Shir Chanukas Habayis LeDavid. David HaMelech didn't build it. We call David HaMelech every day because he sanctified it. Right? We think it's just what's in front of us, but obviously our parents, our grandparents, they sanctified the Ritzpah of this bias. We're trying to build a bias Naaman, but who are the real sanctifiers of this bias Naaman? Our parents, our grandparents. They're the David HaMelechs that sanctified the Ritzpah of this bias of Shlomo. You quote the Tosfos and Zvachim, really, it's amazing. Anyway, back to our discussion. So what does the Gemara say? David sanctified the Beis HaMikdash. What does that mean? Say the Achronim. I gave you a piece from Rav Zolti. Rav Zolti was one of the greats. He was nifter at a young age, Rachmana litzlan, the Mishnas Yavetz. But if you look in the Torah journals from 1967, right after the 6-Day War, all the Gdolei Achronim there wrote Torah articles about the Kedushas HaRabais. They all did. Rav Avadia, Rav Zolti, all of them. So I gave you there's a journal called Torah Shebal Peh from Tafshin Chav Ches, 1968, right after that, in source 23, where Rav Zolti writes about this. And Rav Kook also has it earlier in Mishpat Kohen, in source 21. There are 2 Kedushos of the Beis HaMikdash. There are different ways to call it. Let me just ask another question first, and then we'll introduce it. We know, the Rambam writes in Hilchos Beis Abchira for a second, in 19. We know there are 3 machanos. Remember in the Midbar, there are 3 machanos? There's Machane Yisrael, Machane Leviah, Machane Shechina. The 3 levels going from out to in. Bnei Yisrael were in Machane Yisrael. Getting further in was Machane Levia and then Machane Shechina. And those paralleled the Beis HaMikdash. That's what the Rambam says. It was paralleled. Right? Machane Yisrael bu Arba, Machanos, Machane Levia, Machane Shechina, the Connect on Ladoros. From Yerushalayim till Harabayis is Machane Yisrael. From Harabayis to the Azara is Machane Levia. From the Azara in is Machane Shechina. So from the Azara in is Machane Shechina. But 1 second. In that area, you have a lot of different levels. You have the Azara, you have the Heichal, you have the Kodesh Kodesh, you have the Kodesh Kodashim. But it's all Machane Shechina. So is it 1 level or 3 levels? Says Rav Zolti, says Rav Kook. There are 2 Kedushos of the Beis HaMikdash. There's one which we could call Kedush, they call it different ways, but I'll call it Kedushas Makom, Kedushas Mechitzos. Kedushas Makom means it was sanctified on that spot. And it does not depend whether there's a Beis HaMikdash there or not. That spot was sanctified, and it started even before there was a Beis HaMikdash. David HaMelech sanctified the spot. And that stays forever and ever, because it's not totally on the Beis HaMikdash. It started before there was a Beis HaMikdash, and it continues after there was a Beis HaMikdash. But then there's an added Kedusha, called Kedushas Mechitzos, or Kedushas Binyan. And that is the second level that's totally on, possibly totally on the Beis HaMikdash itself. Machane Shechina is even without a Beis HaMikdash. It's all equal. It could be when there's no Beis HaMikdash, there's no difference between Kodesh Kodashim and Heichal and Azar. That's when it comes to Kedushas Makom, right? It's all one. When there's a Beis HaMikdash, there's Heichal and Kodesh Kodashim. But say these Achronim, the Ravid holds, there's Kedushas Makom, even Bizman Hazeh. There's just no Kedushas Mikdash. And Kares is totally on Kedushas Mikdash. If you look in the Psukim, it says, if you go into the Mikdash, you're Chayiv Kares. So you're not going to get Kares Bizman Hazeh. But there's still Kedushas Makom. And that's why even according to the Ravid, you can't walk in there. Rav Kook says that in source 21, and Rav Zolti says that in source 23. Sover Haravid, Tahad the Batla Kedusha Rishona Vishniya Hainu the Batla Kedusha Zamikdash, Kivan the Kedusha Zamikdash Tali Bibinyan, Shinechra Rabayis Batla Kedusha Zamikdash, but Kedusha's Makom, Lo Batel. What's the Chiddush of the Rambam? Kedusha's Makom, once it started, it never leaves, even if, Kedusha's Mikdash, once it started, it never leaves, even if there is no Mikdash. Once there's Kedushas Mikdash, it's forever. Even without the physical Mikdash, even without the physical Mechitzos. Pashtus, that's the Rambam. That's what he says on the back page. HaRambam sover Shalora Kiddush David. Kiddush is Hamakom, Lo Batal. Gam Kiddush Shlomo. Gamzu Kitchen Lasan Lavo. Because it's totally on Hashem. Once Hashem writes his presence in the Beis HaMikdash, done. It's forever. So both the Rambam and the Ravid hold that there's something Bizman Hazeh, a Kedusha. The question is, does it have the double Kedusha? Yeah.
During the Kedusha is only on whether it's the level of the Ritzvah or even below the Ritzvah.
Yeah.
The place where the Mikdash was is now under 23rd. So you'd be walking way above where the Mikdash.
Right. I mean, the Mikdash was much further down. There's a lot of layers on top. So again, that's a question of, would there be another problem with bringing Karbanos Bizman Hazeh? Because it could be a chatzitza between. No, I'm saying, but we might paskin know that the airspace above, right? Airplanes are not allowed to go over Beis HaMikdash because the airspace above it is kadosh. So wherever it's kadosh, it goes all the way up. Goes all the way up, so it would still be. Yeah, I think so. There's a discussion in the Gemara in Meshuas, I think, about Gag and Balios, whether it's Kacho or Alone is Kacho. But either way, this is a little bit of the discussion of the background of Kedushas Harabayis. So again, it's clear that the whole discussion, Bizman Hazeh, about to go, not to go, should, not should, we're not getting into that at all. But the fact that there is still Kedusha Bizman Hazeh, that's pretty clear. Yeah.
Although you were showing that, you said hold like the Rambam. They hold like
two-part kedusha?
Right. They would say both. They would say it's full. Right. There's no difference beyond that. Once it was built, it was built. Yeah. So if you go on. Oh no. So the right. So if you hold like the Ravid, but still, it could be that you cannot go. Kedusha's makom does not allow a tamei mace to go all the way in. You know, if you say ein bokaris, if you say like that, I heard people walk on. I don't know. Or would there be anybody that says it's totally mutter? There's no kedusha b'zman hazeh? Maybe there's some rishonim, but most assume that even the Ravid holds that there is kedusha b'zman hazeh, just kedusha's makom. So you want to get karis for that, but it's still an isser lav, still asur. Correct. I'm saying, but even the azara, a tamei mace can't go on the azara. Right, tamei mace can't go on the azara. Moral tamei mace. Okay, we'll stop here. Shkoyach, guys. Anybody who's listening?